We all have that inner critic, we have that voice, or whatever it may be that's trying to dissuade us from being what we're truly put on this earth to be. The key mental shift for me was learning that I have to take ownership of my own life. For a while, you just sort of blame everybody else for your mistakes. Just be yourself and be consistent, because people will call you out for not being consistent.
Hello, and welcome to the Jocelyn Moore Show. I'm your host, Jocelyn Moore, and as always, we're here to inform, inspire, and entertain with dynamic conversations that matter. Today, we're talking about redefining strength, a Black U.S. Marine's journey through family, faith, and leadership with our guest, Major Olaolu Ogunyemi, a leadership mentor and award-winning author of Crow from the Shadows. Olaolu, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, Jocelyn. I'm looking forward to have a conversation.
Let's start with a fun question, okay? Which is a tougher gig, getting a squad of Marines ready for inspection or getting your own kids ready for school on an early Monday morning?
Kids, 9 times out of 10. And really, it was the attitude that you got to deal with. See, the Marines don't have attitude, so we can get them ready easily. You just tell them do something, they do it. Children, you could tell them to do something, and, depending on how old they are, they may change their mind about whether they like to do it or not. And even if they do it, they may have a little spice behind it. So I would say the most hardest one's definitely children.
So let's go to number 2. As a Black man, you didn't expect this success. What was the key mental shift that allowed you to become a Marine, award-winning author, and a mentor?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So the key mental shift for me was learning that I have to take ownership of my own life. For a while, you just sort of blame everybody else for your mistakes. And no matter what my parents did a phenomenal job of raising us and definitely worked their overtime on me. But it took a little bit of time for me to learn that I got to take ownership. And that was probably the biggest mindset shift, is knowing that once I own the problem, own my own future, own my own successes, and so on and so forth, that is what triggered me to learn how to become just a better person, become a better son to my parents, become a better brother to my siblings, and a mentor once I left the house, and team leader and everything like that before I even joined the Marine Corps. So I would say that's really the biggest shift in my mind.
You had very good parents, but when you don't have role models like that, because I interviewed someone about a week or so ago, and the topic was parents are the first teachers. And if you don't have it, you're kind of lost in a way.
Yeah, and that's
you're pretty lost.
That's one of the things that I always tell people. That's why it's important for a community. I believe in a few weeks ago, we talked about taking a village and just trying to make sure that we know that it takes more than just one person. There's no way that my parents could have done it without having other people. Because my dad will say some things, and especially as a teenager, at some point, I just knew everything, right? And my dad couldn't tell me anything. And so it just took those extra people around me, my coaches, all those other mentors that came around me and tried to just talk to me, drop a nugget here and there. So to that, I would say that there's a lot of people out there who can reach children in a different way than I can. And I recommend and I urge people to do it. You never know what you may say that may spark that child's change in mental state, that may cause them to be a Marine or author or whatever in the future. The reason that I think we got away from it is because as a millennial, we just knew better, right? We all knew that, we wanted to connect with children. I think that's really one of the biggest things, that we wanted to feel like that we had that connection. And the way we went about it, I believe, and this is just generally speaking, the way we went about it is we almost took more of a friendship. Now, the problem with that is now children, they don't respect their elders and they don't respect people in authority. And I think that's where we forget. And that's why a lot of people have problems, even when they join the Marine Corps, with authoritative figures, because we just made everybody best friends. We don't have to say no, ma'am, no, sir, anything like that, because it's just we've almost taken more of a friendship with our children.
Now, you talk about the Marines. Let me ask you this question. Because you were saying when they come, what age? Is it 18? Is it 18?
It
They
is,
come at
yes.
18. Do you find, maybe you already answered the question, when they join, they might think, well, I'm 18 years old. I'm going to do what I want to do. No one's going to tell me what to do. And when they get to Marines, it's a different story.
Oh, yes.
You have to answer to someone. Do some drop out? How does that work? Like, I can't take this.
Oh, yeah.
How does that work?
So we had, when I was on Marine Corps recruit training, that I was one of the company commanders there. And at the time we had about a 12% attrition rate, which is, that's about normal. I think it's been somewhere between 12 and 15 for a while now. But one thing that we do see is you have those individuals that come with their own ideas of what right looks like. And, usually they get dealt with pretty fast. We have drill instructors who specialize in helping people understand that it's not about you, it's about a team. And that's one thing I do love about the Marine Corps is that they 100% will take that individual, that mentality that I come first out of you. And that's what actually in recruit training, we definitely still say yes, sir, no, sir, and aye, sir. Those are three things that we say. And then the other part is that we, in a way to teach them about the team and really, starting off by stripping their identity from them. And I know this sounds strange, but there's a reason we do it. And we don't even let them say I or me, right? They refer to themselves as
it's a team.
That's exactly right.
Team.
Right. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's why we do it. We want them to just think everything is about you as a part of a team, not you as Olaolu Ogunyemi or you as, John Smith or whoever. It's about this major in the Marine Corps, this recruit in training, they call themselves recruit. This recruit and that recruit are coming together to make a United States Marine team. And so that's one of the things that they do a phenomenal job. And I say they being the drill instructors and officers at the boot camp.
That make them a better person, right? Okay. In your 12 years as an active Marine officer, how has that experience translated to your leadership role at home and in the community?
Yeah, so that's a great question because one of the things that I learned in the Marine Corps right off the bat is be yourself. That as a parent in the community, it's easy to look at other people, especially as a dad, a young father, because I shared with you before, but I graduated college. I was 22, married with a 3-year-old. So as a young father, it's easy to look at somebody out there in the future or look at somebody and say, okay, I want to be that guy. I want to be like him. I want to do this. And in doing so, it's good to have mentors and role models, but sometimes you lose yourself just trying to be somebody else. When in actuality, you have to just be yourself. And that's one of the things the Marine Corps helped teach me is that I'm not like every other officer in the Marine Corps. They reach their Marines in different ways that I reach my Marines and sailors. They connect them on different levels. They have different experiences and so on and so forth. And so I learned that it's just important to be yourself. And so once I learned to be myself, I love having fun. I love being goofy. And if you were to stand around me and my children for even half a second, you're like, okay, this guy, he is always messing around with his children, always popping around the corner, trying to scare them. But that person they see at home is the same person that my Marines get to meet at work. There's not some different person that I have to take off. Yes, the mission is different. Of course, I'm working with adults and I'm not working with my children. But at the same time, the characteristics and the person who I am just doesn't change, whether I go in the community or in the Marine Corps. And really, that's just what I learned from the Marine Corps is just be yourself and be consistent because people will call you out for not being consistent.
Like be yourself, but be better.
Mm-hmm.
I like a person with a sense of humor, not serious all the time. That's like, I don't want to say boring, but that's like, ugh. You have to have a sense of humor, not a straight face all the time like this. What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. You meet a lot of people like that in the Marines. You still meet, well, of course, a lot of people like that who's always serious, can't even smile or.
Well, a lot of us, I would say, starting off as brand new lieutenants, unless they had experience prior enlisted, usually what happens is a lot of us, we join and that's what we learn. I mean, the first thing we talk about is Admiral Stockdale, who did a phenomenal job when he was a POW, and what he taught people, we learned from him is stoicism. And so our idea of stoicism is being exactly what you described, stone face, nobody could read you, your poker face is the same as your happy face. You sit there and nobody can ever read you. And it seems like your Marines are like, okay, that's the guy I aspire to be because, he's strong, nothing bothers him, he's calm under pressure and so on and so forth. And quite honestly, you'll see that, very frequently in the first couple of years. And then you start seeing people take on their own persona and their personality. Once they realize that you can reveal your human side to your Marines. You don't have to be everybody's friend and try to get them to love you or anything like that, just like you wouldn't at home. But you still can reveal your human side. You can let them know that, when you're out in the field and it's cold, you don't have to pretend to not be cold. You could just say, hey guys, it's cold. Let's keep going. Those are the kind of things that you're able to learn.
Now I should ask this question. Maybe someone had to ask you. I hate to do it. But I'm thinking about Gomer Powell in the Marines. Do you have a Sergeant Carter like that? Like Sergeant Carter? Move it, move it, move it, move it.
That's funny because ironically, you'll find that some of the hardest platoons are run by gunnery sergeants just like that. And honestly, I'll tell you the truth that before I joined the Marine Corps, Gunny Ermey was one of the only people I knew before I joined the Marine Corps. And the other one was Major Payne. So I didn't know anything about the Marine Corps when I joined. But when you have people like that, what they do is they train you hard. But usually when you have a hard training, at least in my experience, a Marine sergeant or gunnery sergeant or anywhere in between, usually they love the Marines. I mean, it's almost a bit counterintuitive. If you were to meet them and say, man, you just ran the mess out of those Marines. What were you thinking? I had that when I first got in, my first platoon. There's this guy who I met. He had been in 19 and a half years. And there's this constant bickering amongst my sergeants, and they're just going back and forth. And he wasn't there initially, but he came in and they had all these things going on. And I'm sitting there when he came back from his deployment after about 2.5 months of me being there. And I told him, hey, there's this drama going on in that. I don't know what to do with. I feel like I've walked into like an assistant principal role instead of being a United States Marine officer. And he said, okay, don't worry about it, sir. I'll take care of it. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to talk to him. Fast forward like a day from then, he came back in. He asked me to go home early. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go home at 3:00. I'll just go down and work, talk to my buddy in another office and do some other work around the building. And then I just happened to be in his office. I stayed till like 5:00, not on purpose, but it just, end up in conversation and working and things of that nature. And I see the Marines come back. Well, I see him coming back in. He has like a little bit of sweat and his shirt on the back. I'll never forget this. It said the gunny, and that's short for gunnery sergeant. And he has like this little drop of sweat right here. And he's like, oh, hey, you're still here? I'm like, it's weird that he went out. I thought he rode his bike to work. I didn't know he would go out and just work out in the middle of the day. And then came probably 5 minutes later, like Marines like slowly walking back in. And I'm like, oh my goodness, he just ran them into the dirt. But I'll tell you, he loved them. I mean, he still talks about them to this day. He's been retired 7-8 years already. He still does letter of recommendations and things of that nature, and they respect him. And so that, to answer your question, that was a long way to answer it. But yes, those Marines exist, and they train Marines hard because, the mission that we have is hard. And so they do it because they love them and they want them to come back home in one piece as a team.
I can understand going hard. Yeah, because this is like, that's your life. I mean, that's life and death. I mean, you walk outside your house is life and death, But the Marines, you deal with the bombs and all of that, and oh my goodness, that's something else. Okay, let's move on to the Parent-Child Connect. What was the main inspiration for that?
Yeah, so it started off as a book series. And as I said, when I did. So I wrote my first book, and it's called Crow from the Shadow, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit later. But the reason I wanted to create a series is because I wrote books. I remember enjoying books with my mom. My mom sat down with us and she brought stories to life. She made them very exciting. And I just remember that being like it has a warm spot in my heart. That's why I love reading today. I love engaging with children today because my mother spent time investing with us. And I remembered that feeling I had. So I was like, man, you know what? Why don't I try to, write a book? And so Parent-Child Connect was born from that book series. It was for parents, teachers, mentors, and caregivers to provide resources to just connect with their children and create teachable and memorable experiences. And the idea is just they have fun. Yeah, just connecting with their children, have fun. So let's talk about one of our favorite books growing up. I think all of my siblings would agree it's Green Eggs and Ham. And that's just one of
excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm tired of that book. When my niece was coming up, I got so tired of reading that book. Go on.
But it can get tiring for sure because it is repetitive and it is it's a little silly story. But the
It's
reason
cute. Go
it
ahead.
is cute, and the reason I loved it, my mom did it, is because she would take on the roles. She'll take on the role of Sam I Am, and then she'll take on, he's like, I do not like them, Sam I Am. I do not like green eggs and ham. And as she goes through the story, she's getting more and more angry. And then she
Oh,
comes in
great.
as Sam is like this guy who's just like, well, but can you have it on a boat? And that's how she brought the story to life. So yes, we're looking at the pages, and I don't know how was the last time you actually opened the book. It's actually not that, it's pretty white. Yeah. It's a white pages and, a couple of people on the page, so it's not like it's just excellent illustrations. I think they're monsters or something. I don't really know what they actually are. But the fact that she was able to take that story, because it was well written, take that story and just bring it to life to almost where you could feel the characters coming off the page, and it's more of a
You have
three-dimensional,
to.
interaction with your children. So I thought it was very interesting the way she did it, and I think she did a phenomenal job of just like I said, bringing the story to life.
That's what you have to do. Now, coming of my niece, I put some expressions in my voice, and she was laughing. I was tired, but she was laughing. But that's what you have to do, because just sitting there reading it sometimes, page after page, you have to put some expression in there. But get the kids to really get excited about it. Maybe they might want to act out too, or do a little stage play or something they have read, or come up with their own story. Right. Let's talk about Crow from the Shadows. That was born from a very personal place, right? What was the inspiration, and what was the inspiration? How has it impacted your parenting journey?
So Crow from the Shadow is about a crow who is being told by the shadow, which is a person, place, or a location where you're from, that he couldn't do or be something that he wanted to be. And so the reason I love that story is because we all have that inner critic. We have that voice, or whatever it may be, that's trying to dissuade us from being what we're truly put on this earth to be. And so that's what Crow from the Shadows started as. It really was born from a place of me learning that whatever I want to be, I truly can be. And that's how I live my life. I mean, that's how I joined the Marine Corps. That's how while in Marine Corps, I decided to write books, and then I started to start Parent-Child Connect and start providing resources, and everything that I've done has been really under the impression and belief that, whatever I want to do, I could do. I don't have to hold my breath. I don't have to say, ask for permission. I just do it, and that's really what I want people to understand. I want children to understand specifically. And that's where the book was born from. It was born from just letting people know that you control your own destiny, which goes back to that mindset shift I talked about earlier.
True. That's, you're so right about that. This question I wanted to ask you about that crow from the shadows. Um, sometimes with the kids today, they're dying, or they're in the street, drugs and everything. They really do need that model to say that you mean something, you are important, you can be someone. They need that. They need that push. It's a lot of smart kids out here, but in the wrong direction. No leadership, and that's it's so sad. As so many are dying off today. One young girl, more than a couple of years ago, she said she couldn't think about a prom dress because she was thinking about, if she died, how would they dress her in a coffin?
Mm,
I mean, what is that?
wow.
Okay, that's Terry. I'm so glad the kids have you and your wife. I wish there was more people like that. I know it's a lot more people like that. We just don't hear about it. We hear more negative stuff than positive stuff. It's out there. We just don't hear it. It's out there, and I wish we hear more about that positive. But negative stuff sells more. It's more juicy,
Mm-hmm. That's exactly
right?
right. And that's why we had
It's
to
more
make a voice. And
juicy.
that's why I had to take a pause here and appreciate you for what you're doing. Because you're right. There's so many voices out there that need to be elevated. They need to be amplified, because they are the ones who are truly making a difference. It's easy to sell the negative stuff there are black men
Yes.
that out there, I have friends that I grew up with that didn't make it. They're all in the prison system. They're all going through all kinds of things. And unfortunately, for example, when my dad used to do prison ministry, and he still does, but I obviously I don't go
Okay.
with him. But I used to go with him as a teenager when I got old enough. And I think most of it was probably trying to scare me straight because that's probably where I was headed. And then the rest of it was me now trying to learn from him, and he's bringing me around to mentor me. But what was very insightful for me that I'll never forget is talking to those men behind those bars and hearing how many of them had 3 to 4 children, right? And that's one of the things that was alarming to me because I'm thinking, it's right, I'm counting these men in here that are talking about their kids, 3+ children out there somewhere, without their father because their father's behind bars. And, that's really what happens when we continue, and especially in our community, to amplify the negativity. What we do is we create this model that the children, these young men, don't even know there's something else out there. And so that's why I love what you're doing. I appreciate you, because we have to continue to amplify for our young men to show them that there is another life out there. There is another way. It's not something I'm just a normal guy from Ruston, Louisiana. I joined the Marine Corps, and from the Marine Corps have come many opportunities. From writing books have come many opportunities, but it's all because I chose to take ownership of my life. And I'm just one of many examples out there, but you're right. It's easier to sell the negativity.
It is. Another thing, I have to teach the kids to be proud who they are. There's one girl I was watching the show more than a couple of years ago. I think she must have been up 13 or 14. She said, I don't like the color of my skin. I mean, because she said, I'm going to say it, all black people are bad. It's where she came from. Where she came from, all negative. It's a lot positive out there. And like I said before, I really appreciate what you're doing. So who influenced you besides your parents? Basically, was it your parents? Just your parents? Anyone else?
No, it was my parents, and I would say my coaches, because that's one of the things. I was very insecure as a young guy, and the only reason I was doing the things I was doing was just trying to fit in. So when I was getting in trouble, getting suspended from school, and quite honestly, the credit to
you.
Oh yeah,
you.
Believe it or not.
No, not you.
Oh yeah, and honestly, there was one time the assistant principal, who later invited me back to the school just a couple of years ago, which I thought was amazing. She took that piece of paper. I got a referral to the office for assaulting someone, and she took that referral and put it in her desk drawer. She said, "You know what? I could kick you out for this, but I'm gonna give you one more chance." And it's those kind of people that are in your life that have the potential to change the trajectory of your life. If it weren't for her giving me another chance instead of just kicking me out of school, if it weren't for my coaches helping to give me more of an identity about who I am and giving me something I could help build my confidence in, which was for me basketball and track and really just football. I had drill team at church and all these things. So that's why I always tell people, no matter what your role is in the community, whether you're a coach or even if you're not a coach, I'll give an example. My mom did crochet classes, and I love sharing that because there's one of the random skills that I learned growing up. And so everybody has a role to play because you have a skill that you can give to a child. And all you have to do is present that skill to them and allow them to come in, whether it be jumping rope, skipping rope, or like I said, drill team for some of the retired veterans out there, or whatever it may be your skill is. It doesn't take much for you to start it. You can start in your backyard, you can start at the playground, but just give them something that they can do so that way they can start building their confidence and they start investing in themselves and coming up with an identity for themselves. Because that's one of our problems, especially with our young men, is that we just don't have an identity. And, when I have daughters too, when they're looking for identity, there's, I see the clothes change, I see, makeup, I see not makeup, I see heels and all this other stuff. I see all these other things. But I distinctly remember as a young man, for us, it was always trying to prove yourself as a manly man. I can get in the most fights. I could win the fights. I can argue the best. And it's all these things that honestly are much more dangerous, especially in the long run when it comes to some of the things we're doing. So really it's just getting out there and helping them find their identity in something that's not the typical beat on your chest, macho man type things.
Do you think that boys should not cry? I don't mean like cry every time something happens, but they were brought, not all boys, they were brought up that you're a man. Now you're a little kid. You're the man of the house now. Daddy's not here no more, right? And then some would say, you can't cry. You're a man now. How can you be a man when you're a little boy? You cannot show emotions, and that really hurts them. That really hurts them a lot.
It does.
And it's a shame it's like that. Why do they say that about boys? Can you?
Yeah, so it's funny because I watched a documentary. It's called "The Mask We Wear" or "The Mask We Live In," excuse me, and it just talks about that societal expectation of masculinity, and I don't know where it comes from, and especially in our communities, and maybe it's because some of the strongholds that we are in, or some of the things that we're doing just to survive. Maybe people are looking at it as, well, crying isn't making it better. You have to go do something. You have to take action. You have to be strong. You have to do. And the problem is when you start teaching that, what you're not teaching is how to communicate your emotions. And so a lot of the young men that I've worked with over the years, when they don't know how to channel their emotions in healthy ways, it always shows up in very, very easy ways. It shows up in fighting. It shows up in very violent ways. It shows up in arguing and things of that nature. And very seldom does it show up in journaling, drawing pictures or communicating their emotions. And it's because we're not teaching it. That's really what it is. If we decided, let's say society decided to say, we'll no longer say that crying is weak. And we're just going to say, hey, man, if you need to cry, you want to you have a shoulder to lean on, here I am, come lean on it. You'll cry behind closed doors and we'll come together. And then once you finish, you go out there and continue what you're doing. If society decided that's going to be a thing, then we'll just move on. We'll have stronger men. The problem is that we just have to start somewhere and start continuing this conversation with me and say, hey, man, it's okay to have those moments where you just cry. I mean, I had one of those moments with my son, and it's funny because I say this, I'm speaking from a place not from perfection, but from a place where I've learned through experience. Whereas my son was diagnosed with complex partial epilepsy. And I remember when he had his first seizure, it was right around the time that we had just had a miscarriage with another child. And so now I'm like, well, I have to be strong for my family. I need to be there. I can't be breaking down when they see me and all this kind of stuff. And I'm trying to make sure I'm available to my oldest daughter. I'm going to make sure that I'm protecting my son who now has this diagnosis. I'm going to make sure my wife is taken care of, who's now going through a miscarriage and has a son that's sick. Just trying to be strong. And luckily, my brother, who's a part of my community, he calls me and says, hey, man, how you doing? I'm good, man. And I list out all the things that I'm doing, to take care of my family. He's like, no. I didn't ask you that. I said, how are you doing? And it wasn't until that moment.
I was thinking that.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that, right.
Yeah. It wasn't until that moment that I really stopped and reflected. And that night, I had probably one of the deepest sobs that I've ever had in my life because there was a lot going on. That's especially when it's your children, because all you want to do is protect them. But I had that deep sob, and when I got up, I didn't feel any weaker. In fact, I felt stronger. And then I had the opportunity, because of my brother's advice, to talk to my wife about it. And what I found out is that my wife wasn't looking at me as just somebody who's strong. She's looking at me as somebody who's emotionally disconnected from her wife and children, or from his wife and children, because now I'm trying to be strong and keep my emotions inside, but I'm not being emotionally available to her. And that's one of the things that I had to learn and grow through. So these are things that I had to learn through the experience. And so that's why I love talking about them. So that way our young men can see that you don't have to do that to be strong. There's many ways to prove your strength. And honestly, being able to communicate your emotions in a healthy way is one of those ways.
Let's talk about, what is the most practical advice you have for parents who want to raise, I think we sort of talked about that, confident, healthy kids in a chaotic world. This world's crazy.
Yeah,
it's getting crazier.
It is. And that's the hard part, because we can become consumed with all the stuff going on around us. But in some ways, I would say is just get them involved. Get them involved in extracurricular activities, because there's nothing like being in band or being in, you insert whatever it is, that helps them. In a way, it shelters them from some of the craziness going on out there. It's not going to completely protect them from it, because unfortunately we're in an information age where they receive information sometimes quicker than we do, because it's constantly at their fingertips. But what it does is it gives them something outside of the chaotic world that they can focus on. It gives them a community, because when they're in band or when they're in some kind of sport, the one thing they can't do is take out their phone and start, tweeting or whatever about it. They have to focus on what what they're doing. They have to learn their craft, and they have to learn how to be a part of a team or an organization. And those kind of things are healthy. That's one of the things I tell people. If you can create an environment for them at your home, where in your safe space, where they can actually fail, I think that's one of the biggest things to create or build confidence. I had my son, when he was probably about 8, maybe 9. I told him, hey, those boxes need to go out to the recycle bin. It's a stack of boxes. Do I know they could fit in there? Yes. The best way, as adults, we probably know, is probably break them down or maybe even cut them and then stuff them in the recycle bin. Easy. I didn't tell my son that. I wanted him to figure it out. And what I realized is that he and his friend, which you mentioned karate, I thought it was hilarious because he and his friend turned into a little game for about 15 minutes. They're karate chopping, they're kicking, they're stomping on the box. And of course, the box isn't crushing evenly, which means it's not going to fit. But by watching him fail and what he was trying to do, this task he was trying to accomplish, what I saw was him trying with his friend to figure this thing out. But by him learning how to do that himself in this safe environment with this safe task, he was able to come in with this confidence on himself. Now, just imagine if we can replicate that kind of thing where it's not harmful to the child, it's in your own little bubble, and now you're helping them to grow their confidence. So that's what I always recommend to people. Create these little scenarios where your child can fail in a very controlled environment, and then you can help them out.
I was watching some show. I go look at another show where the father was teaching the child. The child wanted to win, but the child lost, and the child got upset with the child who won. The father said, "Go and congratulate." Let's say his name is Jim. No, because I want that medal. His father was teaching him, about that. It's not how you play the game. It's how you win. I guess that's how you say it, right? But congratulate the other person. Don't be angry. Don't hate the person because they won. Be gracious. And I thought that was very good. The parent did, because kids can act out, even adults act out in ways that's not good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So guess what?
What?
It's that time. So only time we have left is for projects. So what are you working on now? How can people follow you, purchase your books? Go.
I would say the first thing, if you want to follow me, contact me, anything, go to parent-child-connect.com. You'll see my blog. You'll see all of my resources. You'll see my partnership with YouVersion Bible app. You'll see all of that. Again, that's parent-child-connect.com. Now, as far as projects are concerned, one of my biggest projects I'm working on is called Lead Last. It's my first leadership book. And within, you'll have 21 leadership principles that really are going to help you become an effective leader. And I wrote it for emerging leaders and your mid-career professionals. So probably somewhere between, the person who's just joined the organization, maybe just leading, all the way through probably about your 10-year veteran who's just taken over a larger team or things of that nature. So the book has I believe, some good research that we've done. Had some good people who came and have endorsed the book as well. And so it's been a fun project that we've been working on. Right now it's projected to launch somewhere around June of 2026. And so we're very excited about it. And that's the biggest project I have going on right now.
Look, I want to say thank you, for being here today. You showing that anything is possible when you put your mind to it. We really appreciate you being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
For our viewers at home watching, if you like what you see, subscribe to The Jocelyn Moore Show. Want to be a guest on our show? Head over to our website, www.jmentertainment.info. On the homepage, click on About and follow directions to be a guest. If you have any questions about today's show or past or future shows, just click Contact on our website and submit a message. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care and keep watching.